Market and Investor Protection Committee, Professional Development Committee, Management Accounting Committee, Expert Advisory Committee. He was also a member of the Accounting Standard Board, Auditing and Assurance Standard Board, Public Finance Committee, Information Technology Committee, Insurance Committee, etc., etc. He was the founder and national director and dean of the one-year certificate course in finance, MBF, from July 2009 to 2013. He was founder and national director of 3-month certificate course on valuation. He was a national director and certificate course on Forex, risk and treasury management. Besides that, he has also served in different committees of the Central Board of Direct Taxes, Ministry of Corporate Affairs, and SEBI. Mr. Jain has been elected in the National Council of CII and a former national president of Association of National Stock Exchanges. Sri Vinod Jain ji was a member of the high-powered committee appointed at secretary level by the Finance Ministry to simplify the income tax law. Mr. Jain was also appointed by Union Finance Minister as a member of the advisory group to advise on GST law, review to the GST Council. Vinod Jain ji served for 4 years till 2019 as a government nominee director on the board of directors of Coal India Limited, chairman of its audit committee, and a member of the CSR committee. He also served as a director of Southeastern Coalfields Limited. So with this brief introduction, I would like to request our chairman, Satish Gupta ji, to welcome Vinod Jain ji and also introduce to the speakers. Satish Gupta.
Thank you, Sonali ji. Thank you. Respectable speaker of this session on CSR, past council member, CA Vinod Jain ji. And friends, we must know by this time, but we know already also that he is a versatile personality. He is a very knowledgeable person and he has command over various subjects. You call him on any topic, on any subject, you will find that he's master of all. It's a great person, great speaker, great professional. And we are very fortunate enough that today we have amongst us on this wonderful topic, that CSR, stakeholders versus shareholders. Friends, believe me that the concept of corporate social responsibility is a broader concept, and now it is moving from shareholders to stakeholders. How it is moving, what are the benefits, and how much is the success rate will be taken care of by CA Vinod Jain ji. But I want to tell you, friends, the CSR, the corporate social responsibility, is a new subject within the Companies Act, but it has enormous opportunity for our profession. I can say you, friend, just try to understand this provision. Very small provisions are these. Section 135, one section, Schedule 7 is there, some rules are there. But I can assure you, by going through, by being expertise on this particular topic, you can have a very big opportunity in our profession. The time is coming when, although our country, India, is not new to CSR, we have seen that in our country, in past also, several centenary past even, when we see that the Bawdis, kuas, dharamsalas, hospitals, and schools in our towns, in our small villages, we will find that those all are because of the industrialist and the states or the businessmen of that particular town or particular village or particular district. So they have done a lot for our society. So CSR is not new for our country, but after being making it statutarized by incorporating the compulsory provisions in the Companies Act and in the form under Section 135, that the companies in certain circumstances will have to incur 2% of average net profits of past 3 years. India is the first country to do this, friends. So I think CSR is a very good opportunity for our profession. So I would not take much of your time. I would request you all just listen Vinod Jain sir and grab the opportunity and just try to understand this concept, stakeholders versus the shareholders. And I think I will request Vinod Jain sir to kindly also try to cover the relation of CSR with the Sustainable Development Goals prescribed by the UN in 2015 for making the word better word in 2030. So I think it will be better understandable to our listeners. So thank you very much, friends. Thanks a lot for becoming part of this wonderful VCM. Thank you very much, Jain Saab, again for giving us this opportunity and for giving your valuable time for the profession, for the fraternity. Thank you very much, sir. Thanks, Sonali Madam, for this wonderful session. Thanks a lot. All the best.
Thank you, sir.
Over to Sonali.
Now I request Vinod Jain ji to kindly take the session, and the participants are also requested, if you have any queries which you want to put up to Vinod Jain ji, you can kindly put up the queries and we'll try to take them up at the towards the end of the session with the permission of sir. So over to you, sir.
Although, thank you, Sonali ji, and thank you to Shri Satish Kumar Gupta ji, Satish ji, for all your very nice words and expressions about corporate governance as well as about me personally. I am thankful to you. Also to Sonali for actually introducing me in so greater detail. I am very, very happy to be amongst you, and thank you, Satish ji, and your committee to have given me this opportunity to speak to people across India. Actually, I am told some people from outside India are also there. This kind of a topic, of course, would have made wonders if you would have made it interactive. But I think your platform possibly do not permit us to actually do interaction on one-to-many basis or one-to-one basis, time to time. You know, if some people also make remarks in between, that add tremendous value to this kind of a conference. But anyway, I will try and do my justice, whatever the platform, decorum will work accordingly. And I will try and put forth before you as to how I really look at this topic. And the topic before us, given by CSR committee to us, is stakeholders management versus shareholders management. You know, when it comes from CSR committee, it comes in a different manner. When it comes from corporate governance committee, possibly it comes in a different manner. But I think we might have to really combine the two, because it is ultimately, I see them together. I don't see them differently, whether they are in the at the stage of corporate governance or at the stage of corporate social responsibility, because both of the things are actually intermixed. You know, we will recall those days, rather, of the management. You know, when I was, of course, fairly young, we started learning what the management is all about in early part of 70s, as a part of management study in Sri Ram College of Commerce, and then later on the platform of Institute of Chartered Accountants, because CA Intermediate at that time used to have one paper on principles of management. So I think everywhere, we were told that the business of the business is profits. It is ultimately, primarily, shareholders' net worth or wealth maximization. That is what is the objective of the business. According to this school of thought, there can be no other ways about where the priorities of corporations, its managers and owners must lie. These priorities towards shareholders meant that the corporation for a long time did not consider any social or environmental aspect as their priority, and primarily concentrated on making profit. That means that not only the top line going up, of course, was their concern, but most importantly, the bottom line requirement of business was to make as much money as possible and as early as possible, and to grow as bigger. I think that was the primarily concern of corporations as the initial part when we say it. So it can be at the expense of the all of the stakeholders, including customers. It could be at the expense of maybe the environment. There are various aspects. Indeed, many businesses did not even think about what are known now as stakeholders, and instead took many of them as for granted. They thought that possibly stakeholders, what are these stakeholders? They have nothing to do. It is my business, I'm running my way. The thinking was that once a corporation attained a certain size and a measure of profitability, it will command respect from its constituents, and hence primary objective was to grow as fast as possible and become as large as possible. So this was possibly one school of thought. I hope Sonia ji have enabled me to share my screen.
Yes, sir.
Disabled, please. It is still disabled. Please enable me.
1 second, sir.
I see it is still disabled.
Is it enabled now, sir?
Let me see. Yes, I think it is enabled now. So friends, we'll be talking about this very, very important topic, especially for auditors. I think this is a very, very important topic. I'll connect this topic with auditors as we move further. But I think first, let us understand where we are actually. Although when I'm talking to chartered accountants, I understand that all of you are learned professionals, have vast experience on your slate, and maybe done your training with a large firm or a small firm or a medium-sized firm. Some of you might have been working for the industry, some of them you might be in practice, and some of you might be taking up other aspects of your activity. But this topic, if it is understood in the right perspective, I think it will change the way actually one manages oneself in day-to-day life also. Because I think I'll try and connect it with what is important for you as a professional, what is important for you as a person. And that is how we are really going to really look at this topic, stakeholders management versus shareholders management. You see, shareholders are always stakeholders. And main object, of course, has been their main object of shareholder has been maximization of wealth. But stakeholders are not always shareholders. There could be more than other than shareholder also, there could be stakeholders. And they have interest in company other than the stock performance or appreciation. So all stakeholders other than shareholders, I think we'll be looking at them in two compartments, because that way shareholders are also stakeholders. But when we try and see them as two compartments, because that is how the topic takes us, stakeholders versus shareholders management. So stakeholders have a very different interest as compared to shareholders. They are not that much concerned about stock performance or stock appreciation, but they are not concerned about maximization of wealth of the shareholders. But I think in a large way, the interest is common. How it is common, I think we'll really look at it. See, first, let us see corporate social responsibility, CSR, with what reference we are really talking about. So the Hindu mythology, just a minute. As per Hindu mythology, corporate social responsibility, what is the responsibility of a corporate, is manifestation of dharma, the duty of human towards the society. According to them, whatever is the corporate social responsibility is, what is the dharma, ये हमारा जो corporation है उसका धर्म क्या है, वही उसकी corporate social responsibility है. Dharma is duty towards human beings, duty towards society. I think that is what is primarily Hindu mythology is talking about. Whereas another scholar, Mr. Mahatma Gandhi, our Rashtrapita, he believed in trusteeship model, whereby wealth once created has to be plowed back to the society. That was his way of looking at it. He says CSR may be defined as achieving commercial success in ways that honor ethical values, respect people, respect communities, and of course the natural environment. You see, Mahatma Gandhi has really taken it to a very, very large platform. You see, on the one hand, he is saying wealth once created has to be plowed back to the society. That means it is the responsibility of the corporate as to whatever wealth is getting created, it is getting maximized on the platform of the corporate. It is the benefit of it is plowed back to the society. And how do you achieve a commercial success? Mahatma Gandhi says that commercial success is only one, that honor ethical value. So very, very important is ethical value. We all chartered accountants understand what ethical value is all about. And respect people. It is not only respecting your owners, they're talking respecting people, respecting the community and the natural environment. When you respect people, when you respect the community and natural environment, I think practically all stakeholders are actually covered in the people, community and natural environment. I think how it is done, I think we'll try and really go into details as we go further. But Mahatma Gandhi has, of course, on the one hand, given us the social part of the corporate governance and the corporate social responsibility. On the other hand, they have linked the wealth to the respect of people, community and natural environment. And I think another very big scholar, Chanakya. We have, I think all of us as a humanity in India is quite a lot impacted and affected by what Chanakya has said. Chanakya is the greatest scholar in the history of human mankind. And he has linked CSR and good governance. He said CSR is nothing, corporate social responsibility is nothing, but it is actually good governance. If you govern your corporate in a good manner, if it is good governance, then, and there is no wasteful expenditure, you achieve corporate social responsibility. As we go further in later slides, I will try and explain you these principles of Chanakya with reference to various principles which he has laid down. I think we'll come to those principles in some later slides, and at appropriate time, I'll try and explain you how Chanakya has actually very ably linked corporate social responsibility with good governance. And that is what very, very important for all of us to really understand and appreciate. Now, let us see who are our stakeholders. The owners and shareholders, in any case, are our stakeholders. Their stake is they've invested money, and they are those who are promoters and those who are main owners. Their of course interest is wealth maximization of the corporation and to earn maximum out of that particular corporation. And shareholders, of course, are looking for maximization of their shareholders' value. They're also looking for further and further wealth creation. They're definitely interested. They are definitely interested as a stakeholder that the company grows and prosper. Not only the top line grows, not only they venture into new and new businesses and new frontiers, they do major innovations, but at the same time, they should earn sizable profits, and that is how to create large reserves for them and keep on distributing dividends. And also maybe other corporate benefits like bonuses, like and different kind of rights, and maybe sometimes even discounts on the services or goods which are being provided by the corporation concerned. That is what we see is primarily the smaller shareholders are really looking at. But those who are large shareholders, I think their main purpose is maximization of the wealth of the corporation itself. Now, the second stakeholder is employees. Now, employees could be full-time directors. It could be CEOs, it could be CFOs, it could be key managerial personnel, and it could be employees at different levels. You see, when you work in a large corporation, and when you as a chartered accountant is managing that large corporation, either as a KMP or as a director or as a owner or as any other constituent, we will be discussing other constituents also. So then I think employees at different levels have different, fairly different ambitions. In any case, everybody is looking for his paycheck regularly, is also looking for his growth, and also looking for proper treatment and best HR practices, whether it is bonus, whether it is adherence to various employees related laws, and whether all kind of benefits like medical, education, various other things they really look at. And in any case, promotion and a reasonable pay is also in any case they are really looking at. So this is their expectation. Lenders, debenture holders, and people who have provided debt to the company. You see, this is a very, very hot topic when we as chartered accountants really look at, there has been a thinking. Of late, the thinking, of course, have started changing after the insolvency law has really come in. Lenders, the corporations were looking at them as somebody who comes, who is looking for lending money. It is he's always looking somehow or other try and convince him that we have a good project and try and implement a project. There could be lenders' money, or in any case, sometimes it is diverted, sometimes it is misused. Sometimes their own money through over-invoicing is also flowed back as the equity of the shareholders, and all kind of uses, misuses, diversion of funds are being not only alleged against corporations, but I think we have seen one after another a very large number of corporations in India, outside India, across the world. I think there is no exception. I think across the world we have been seeing that a large number of corporations are actually compromising their responsibility towards the lenders. There could be lenders, large lenders like banks, institutions. There could be debenture holders, widespread. I still recall that Prime Minister Modi, when he came in 2017, on the 1st July 2017 on the Institute platform, he was talking of a depositor, that lady who actually, her lifetime saving, an old lady her husband's saving and her saving, has deposited a part of that saving with a corporation in either in the debentures or in deposits. And then when the money is diverted from that company and ultimately her deposits is due and she don't get her interest regularly, then in any case it is a scar on corporate governance and corporate social responsibility of that particular corporate. So this was, of course, one part which is a public part of it, where the Honorable Prime Minister has said on 1st July 2017 that it is actually auditors' responsibility to ensure, that there is a fair play by the corporations concerned, the diversion of resources from the corporation, the misuse of resources in the corporation are not permitted, or they are reported upon by the auditors. I think that is what is the expectation of the government, as government being another stakeholder which we are going to discuss. But I think insolvency law has changed the entire scenario fairly dramatically. We have seen many large borrower corporates. They have really been taught a lesson by the insolvency law. And I must congratulate, for that matter, our late finance minister, Shri Arunji Jaitley. I think we have been, of course, looking at him as a legion since our college days, when he was part of the Shriram College of Commerce. He has really brought in a law, insolvency law, which has changed the entire perspective of the borrowers, the corporate. Because we have seen that whosoever has mismanaged with the lenders in a larger way or in a very unreasonable way, lenders have now been given an option that they can always go to the NCLT after giving a notice to the borrowers, and then once NCLT really accept, the management is immediately taken over by the insolvency resolution professionals, and most of them are, of course, chartered accountants. So many of you might have been doing that work as the insolvency resolution professional, or maybe in some other capacity, either on the part of the management side, or maybe on the part of the IRP, or on the part of the presentation before NCLT, or on the part of the people who are actually presenting their resolution offers before the committee of creditors. So the stakeholders of lenders, their importance have been enlarged by actually this particular insolvency law. And we have seen that the companies, very large companies like Bhushan's, we have seen on the other hand, SR Group, and a large number of them, I think why to name only two of them, a very large number of them, who have been really, the management as well as ownership, both has been taken away from the promoters, and it has been given to a third party who could actually offer better terms to the lenders, debenture holders. And this is a large lesson which has really been learned by corporate India, that they have to actually look after and manage their stakeholders, lenders, debenture holders, and other debt holders in a much more respectable manner. That is what Mahatma Gandhi ji was saying. The respect to the other stakeholders is what is very important. Respect does not mean that we are saying good morning, good evening every day to them, or communicating our respect to them. Respect is that we look after, we respect their interest in the corporation. I think that is what we are really talking about. Now coming to customers. Customers is another stakeholder. Goods or services. We have seen the corporation, your corporation will be providing goods or services, but customer is, of course, the central focus. In case the corporation really want to grow and prosper, it is very important that goods and services are of best quality. And I think most importantly, I still recall in CII National Council, we had our various industry leaders. One day this discussion was going on, and I think the consensus which was arrived in CII among the top industries of the country as a part of the National Council was that there is a misapprehension among the people that if you want to reduce your cost, you should reduce the quality of your goods or services. I think most of the people, including Tatas who were present there, including TVS, I'm talking of their owners were present there, including Birlas and Godrej and various others. In one unique voice, they said that once they try and provide their services or goods of the best order, actually their cost which they incur is actually not higher, and then sometimes even it is lower. Some people may really think about it, what Vinod Jain ji is talking about. But I think this is a ground reality. You know, even as a chartered accountant, suppose you and me are providing our goods or services, for example, and in case we provide good quality service to our clients with adequate due diligence, with the greatest integrity, and ensure that the corporate governance is actually met by them in the letter and the spirit, guide our client in an appropriate manner so that he is able to get into sustained growth. I think this quality, this real quality which is expected out of you if we deliver, it is not necessarily at the cost of higher cost. It is actually, in my view, when you work diligently, honestly, my last 40 years plus career tell me, when you actually work diligently, honestly, then you are able to much faster, much quicker able to deliver, because your entire organization down below you, including your other partners, including engagement managers, including qualified chartered accountants who are working in the organization, as well as article trainees and other support people, they really understand that message very clear, that our organization means business. And that is where, you know, we are quality oriented. We are here to add value to our clients. So once that thought comes, actually the wastage of resources is much lesser, and not only wastage of resources is much lesser, but quality is better and the cost is also lower. Anyway, I think most important, coming to the present topic, customer is a very, very important stakeholder, and unless customers are happy in a continued way, customer is very demanding. I think Mahatma Gandhi has said great good words about customers, that customer is the king. He only obliges us when he comes to us. We don't oblige him by providing services. Actually, he obliges us by coming to us for services or for seeking goods. So we have to really look at them in that manner and provide them best quality of goods and services at reasonable price, at reasonable terms, and of course meet our commitment with the customers. That is where the corporate governance, that is the real CSR, actually, corporate social responsibility towards the stakeholder like customer. When it comes to suppliers and vendors, you know, sometimes, you know, the thinking was supplier, of course, ultimately is coming for his own gain to me. Why I have to really actually worry about vendor? You know, this philosophy has undergone a complete change after we have seen Maruti and various other Japanese players when they are coming to India. You know, we have very closely worked with Maruti Udyog Limited and seen them. You know, they have worked so hard in developing their suppliers. Initially, when they started work in India, all their major supplies, they identified suppliers very, very carefully, and not only identified good suppliers, but then worked hard in their training, in their development. They invested also a part of their capital, I think initially about 15%, 16% capital. Equity capital was also contributed by them to some of the important suppliers, not all of them. And then, of course, regular training, regular support on their software, reviewing of their hardware, their working systems, their communication system, their control systems of their own businesses, about the quality control, about the delivery mechanism, and in every single thing, we have seen Maruti Udyog actually playing a very, very important role. In the CFO world, we had a great discussion, a long discussion on this topic itself. We invited people from Maruti, we invited people from various other industry corporates. And when we talked about what is the importance of a supplier or a vendor to an organization, and I think we were, of course, the consensus which emerged among the CFOs based on the discussion with Maruti Udyog and various other suppliers, various other large corporate was that supplier is a very, very important person. And the success of a corporate primarily depend on how do you really treat your suppliers, whether you treat them as a business partner or whether you've seen them as rogues and delay all their payments, never make them payment in time, not issue them proper purchase orders, and reject their material just for one reason or the other, or maybe don't give them proper specifications, don't give them any support. You know, these are two opposite things. You know, I still remember as a director of Coal India Limited and chairman of audit committee, we looked at this actually, how much we can really support our suppliers and vendors, more particularly, you know, those who are supplying us all important, earth moving equipments, or maybe providing us various kind of support services which are required. So I think once you actually really look them as business partners and work on them, then it is not only that you are actually meeting your corporate social responsibility, the CSR. I'm not talking CSR at the 2% spent on CSR. I think we'll come to that topic later. But we're talking of corporate social responsibility as a wider perspective as to what is the corporate social responsibility really all about. How so suppliers and vendors becomes very, very important. Now comes to the government and government agencies. The government is interested in more than one way. When and your corporate responsibility is multifold towards the government and government agencies. Not only you need to actually operate within the four corners of law, morally, ethically, but also pay your direct tax and your indirect tax in time, take necessary licenses, pay your license fees in time, and also ensure that the environment in which you operate within that environment as a good corporate citizen, and does not bring new issues and different issues for the government in terms of law and order, in terms of health, and we don't create problems for the government as well as for the society. Society and public at large is, of course, another very important stakeholder. We have seen what happened in Bhopal. I know many of you are very young. You have not seen possibly that Bhopal tragedy. When in Bhopal, there was a gas leakage done by one very large multinational corporation. And it impacted entire Bhopal. And about several lakh people actually, suffered. And about 70,000-80,000 people died because of the gas leakage from that particular corporation. So your responsibility to the society. And we have seen there is even international communities really talking about the environment importance and the responsibility of the corporate social responsibility. Environment is very, very important portion. I think its impact on how it is impacting everybody else, how it is impacting the corporate, and how corporate's own interests are getting impacted when you don't look after these stakeholders. That is also we are going to really discuss as we move further. And environment is and nature. You need to really look after, whether it is Harit Kranti or whether it is, noise pollution or whether it is water pollution or whether it is air pollution. I think corporates have to really become more and more importantly. The term stakeholders, of course, earlier were being denoted as multiple, very differently. But now I think all the stakeholders which we really look at are becoming important. One more stakeholder which I'm going to add to this list is the auditors, because I think I personally feel that the auditors are also very, very important stakeholders, not only from the viewpoint of getting an appropriate good fat fee or maybe a good result, but also a fair treatment in terms of transparency, in terms of fairness of businesses, in terms of truthful disclosure, and correspondingly, of course, auditors have their own responsibility as towards the various other stakeholders also. They need to really look at this. I will like to quote some saying of one Mr. Jack Ma of China's Alibaba. He said to his investors that he will put customer first, employee second, and the shareholders third, by arguing that a company that does not have satisfied employees will not have satisfied customers, and without satisfied customers, we could not possibly have satisfied stakeholders. I think this is a very good saying, and we know Alibaba of China is one of the largest corporation which has actually grown from strength to strength as we have gone further. In terms of stakeholders, the environment cost of business was simply written off earlier as externalities that were outside the cost that a product entailed. For example, if a corporation was polluting the environment, the effect of pollution were never considered to as an integral part of corporate social responsibility. It was considered external to the cost of doing business, and the corporations were not liable to pay for them. That was, of course, the thinking process. However, this was contested by social activists and the environmentalists who protested against the rapacious practices of the corporation and demanded that this corporation be made to pay for the effect that they were on the socially and environmentally. I think, but 3-4 decades, we have come a very long way in actually graduating from shareholders management versus stakeholders management. And in fact, they are not two, they are one. Shareholders interest, of course, on the other hand, we see they own a part of the company. They have a financial interest in profitability. They have interest in the stock prices. They, of course, definitely is looking for right to vote, the majority shareholders in their own manner, the minority shareholders in their own manner, and they can actually change the management methodology, diversification appropriately. The management rights of the company is also another important aspect of a shareholder's interest, especially those who are actually holding a sizable equity. They definitely are looking for management rights, and the ownership rights of the company and wealth maximization, of course, is the end result of all those 4 things. So shareholders' interests are quite wide, from management, from ownership, from right to vote, from best possible stock prices, dividend, and in any case, the bonuses and right issues. But their financial interest in profitability, which leads to wealth maximization, that is where, I appreciate and understand that unless you actually look after the other stakeholders which I just discussed, it will be not possible for you to actually meet the requirements of your financial interest in profitability on a long-term basis, on a sustained basis. How, of course, we'll discuss. Now, I think I mentioned to you that I'll be talking about Chanakya's basic aspects of how stakeholders should be managed. Chanakya has done very detailed talking in his Kautilya Arthashastra about how different stakeholders need to be actually managed. And what he is really talking about is different stakeholders. The first principle he has given is that management has to be consensus oriented. You can't actually really work only on majority ruling. I think consensus orientation we have seen, the best part of consensus orientation we have seen in a GST Council. As an advisor to GST Council, when we worked so closely with the top echelon of the government, we have seen that the broad thinking, we interacted with all the heads of the GST of various states also several times, and also the chief commissioners of all the states and the commissioners of all the states also several times on various aspects of GST law. So how a consensus can be arrived on different suggestions which we are giving it to them was a very, very important aspect of actually determining as to what will be really done. The only result was the decision making. When one person is doing and he's doing on majority basis, then it does not prevail. But Jaitley ji, of course, have given us a mandate very clearly that it has to be consensus oriented. And in the GST Council, there was not even one occasion that any decision has been taken by voting. Every decision is taken by consensus. Consensus means, it does not mean that it has to be 100% people have to agree, but we have to balance the interests of everybody. All stakeholders' interests have to be balanced. That is where the consensus is. When you're looking at shareholders, you at the same time take care and ensure that you give a better deal, a good deal to employees. You look after your customers appropriately. You look after your customers and take care of your vendors, and ensure through a consensus on different decisions that you don't adversely impact the environment or the various aspects. The second aspect is accountable. Every corporate social responsibility includes every corporate manager, every person who is in charge of corporate governance, including auditors, including CFOs, including key managerial personnel, the managing director, the executive directors, and CEOs and CFOs. They need to be accountable towards all the stakeholders. It is very, very important that they understand their accountability. That is what Prime Minister Modi was talking about with us on 1st July 2017 was that you chartered accountants as advisors, as CFOs, as auditors have to be more and more accountable to the society at large, because that is what is our CSR. That is what is our corporate social responsibility as a professional. So on the other hand, various corporate, whether it could be a very large corporate, or whether it could be a mid-sized corporate, or whether it could be a small or a very small company or a very small organization, everyone has to really work on the basis of accountability towards various stakeholders. I think we have already understood the importance of the employees, the importance of the customers, and I think most importantly, the importance of the vendors and various other stakeholders. Transparent. I think this transparency is something which has to be understood in a very, very professional manner. What is transparency? Transparency does not mean that you do everything completely openly and there is no secret there. Of course, every business has its own business secrets. Maybe your business process may be secret. Your buyers may be secret. You may not like to disclose people who from where you are buying. Your customers may be secret. You may not like to disclose your customers to whom you are selling. You may like that secrecy. I think we are not asking you to really think of making that transparent, because that will possibly affect sometime your business interest. Your competitors may really impact you very heavily. What is being transparent is whatever your operations are, whatever your policies are, whatever your philosophy is, whether it is towards employees, whether it is towards customers, whether it is towards vendors, it has to be clear. It has to be transparent. And I think the next topic which Chanakya has said is a corporation has to be responsive. You need to respond. Suppose, we have seen the very, very large companies, they come out with a very fancy model of automobile cars. And when they find that there are certain technical problems, without caring for the losses which they have, which may have, we have seen even thousands of vehicles are being withdrawn by the automobile manufacturer. This is actually an indication of being responsive towards your customer needs. एक बार बेच दिया, मेरा क्या जाना है, अब तो आपने एक पैसे दे दिया, I'm not going to really bother. That kind of approach is not going to work. It is not going to meet the objective of even, it is not going to really benefit even the shareholders. What is the question of the benefit in the stakeholders? And I think so you have to be responsive to the shareholders. You need to be responsive to the employees. You need to be responsive to the customers' demand and requirements. And you need to be very, very responsive to the vendors' issues, and similarly respond to the various regulatory requirements or environmental requirements or society requirements which are there. You need to really respond to them in a very, very important manner. I think responsive, I can give one more example. For example, as Coal India, I think I've again and again give that example because I have worked very closely for several years as the chairman of the audit committee of Coal India Limited, and really seen how important it is to be responsive to the society at large. For example, we are actually, we remember, I don't know how many of you have really seen those that movie in which there is a coal mine in which thousands of laborers were trapped. I think we're talking of pre-nationalization days, maybe about 30 years ago. And, a huge number of people really died. And I think it was picturized also very well. So that was, of course, dramatized in a picture, but ground reality is that it was seen by Coal India that, we can't risk our own people. And accordingly, the decision was taken that the Coal India decided that we'll do entire our taking out of coal in an open cast manner. That means about 95% plus of our mines, although in spite of the fact that the cost is going to be about 3 to 4 times of actually taking out the coal, the decision was taken at the level of the Coal India management, and it was aggressively improved in last 7-8 years on the direction of the current leadership, that we have aggressively moved towards open cast mining of the coal. And now about 95% of plus coal is being taken on by open cast. Open cast means that you dig away, remove all the soil, and then take out the coal down below. So the question of the safety and security is very, very significantly different when you're doing open cast. And in any case, from the Coal India management, there is a clear-cut direction as well as monitoring. Not only direction, monitoring is also very important to ensure that all the business processes, all the mining processes are carried out in a very safe and secure manner. And when it comes to society, coal is a very, very big pollutant, because when coal is being moved from one place to another, especially at the time of loading, unloading, I think that portion becomes very, very important in terms of environment. So unless we look after environment, suppose trucks after trucks are moving with open in coal, it will create environmental hazard to all the society completely. So I think a decision was taken that all the logistics, at least till the railhead, will be done in a covered pipe, in a closed pipe, and it will be pushed. Of course, a tremendous amount of money was spent almost in every single mine, and efforts were also made to create railway lines as near to the mines itself, so that more and more coal can be transported to the railhead, and from railhead also it is also again, when it is loaded into the railways, into the rail wagons. At that time also, that automation was done in a manner so that you are being more responsive to the society. And similarly, at the level when it is received by the concerned powerhouses, then also they ensured that pollution is much lesser. Now, the next point which Chanakya has said is you need to be equitable and inclusive. I think equity is a very, very important part of any corporate management and corporate governance and corporate social responsibility. Equitable means you have to be fair with your own people, with your employees, with your customers, with your vendors, and all other stakeholders. And inclusive. Inclusive means you're not looking after the only select few customers, or select few employees, or select few vendors. You need to be actually not only be equitable with one, you need to be as equitable. You can't give equal treatment to everybody. Equitable and equal are two different words. As Justice Krishna Iyer has said, the Honorable Justice Krishna Iyer, in one of his Supreme Court judgment, that you can't equally treat unequals. So that means, to be fair, you need to give a equitable treatment. That means you need to give a treatment in such a manner that all stakeholders, which may be unequal, which may be somebody is a small vendor, somebody is a large vendor. So that is how, even Government of India said that MSME, you need to pay up in time, otherwise you'll end up paying them huge interest. I think at about some time that interest went even up to 24% per annum. I remember one of our clients who came for a certificate, a small amount of about few lakhs, I think about 65, 70 lakhs. There was some dispute between them and their vendor, and he went to MSME court in terms of litigation, that why you're not paying me on time. So at the end, Honorable Supreme Court granted about 7.5 crore total, including interest, for this entire litigation period also went from this corporate. Actually, what I'm trying to say is that you need to be equitable with people, especially those who are smaller, especially your MSME suppliers, your MSME customers, and your smaller customers. And I think the next point is very, very important from corporate governance, corporate social responsibility, that you need to be effective as well as efficient. I think these two words have to be understood in their real meaning. Effective means you have to do everything with full in a best possible manner, so that you are what you are doing as a corporate, you are completely effective and efficient at the lowest possible cost. So you not only give the best quality product, but give them at the lowest possible cost, and also make adequate money. It is not efficiency and efficacy does not mean that you don't make adequate profit. Making adequate profit and equitable profit is very, very important. The next principle which the Chanakya has said is follow the rule of law. It is very, very important that rule of law is followed not only in letter but also in spirit. I think some of the people, some of the corporate do not want to follow the rule of the law. We are seeing day after day, there are people who are getting into bogus billing and trying to evade GST. One after another, these kind of remarks are coming. People are being raided by the government. People are being arrested. And various kind of allegations are coming on various kind of corporate. So when these kind of allegations comes on a corporate, it impact the corporate future very significantly. I think that is what we need to understand. If somebody wants a sustainable growth and a real bright future, increase in the top line, increase in the bottom line, then following the rule of law, whether it is direct tax, whether it is indirect tax, whether it is environmental law, or whether, suppose, for example, there are certain licensing requirements, or there are certain guidelines, or there are society principles For example, we are seeing that some people are getting into obscene filmmaking. So they're not following the rule of law. They're trying to really, go from the left-hand side that possibly UK it is allowed. So let us go to UK and present those films in through UK to India. All those kind of things are not following the rule of law in letter and spirit. And whenever you do that, the problem is bound to come your door. Participatory. I think it is very, very important that we give an opportunity to participate to every stakeholders, give them an equitable opportunity. So the management is participatory. In case of employees at different levels have a role to play in the management. The decision making is not concentrated, delegation of power is not concentrated alone, only at the highest level. It is actually, there is a participative management at various levels. So, and of course, ultimately, we have seen, whether it is Infosys or whether it is Tata, whether it is L&T or whether it is Birlas or whether there are several Indian businesses who are very, very particular about participatory management. And that is how, ultimately ethical values are imbibed from top to the bottom. I remember, ethical values really, once you try and they really go so deep. When we see Reserve Bank of India, for example, as a regulator, I've been dealing with the Reserve Bank of India for last about 40 years. But all other regulators, there could be issues. But with RBI as a regulator, no person at any level, at least in my experience, will really expect unfair treatment or expect any bribe or any other favor to him. Nor they are going to have malicious treatment against you. Nor they are going to harass you. They are, of course, asking if you actually deal with them properly. They will also react very, very properly, actually, and very, very open with the open heart. So I think that kind of a corporate social responsibility which Reserve Bank of India has taken, if that kind of a approach is actually inculcated into every single organization from the regulator side, I think India will be a different will be a different place. Whether it is tax department, direct taxes and indirect taxes, the kind of tax terrorism some of the malicious officers are really trying to put is actually against the responsibility which is given to them. So coming back to the corporate social responsibility, I drifted from my topic a little bit. So participatory management is very, very important. Now, stakeholders versus shareholders. I think that is the topic which is given to me. I feel that there is no conflict between stakeholders and shareholders. The conflict is only perceived. It is what is required is change of perspective. You need to change your perspective, how you really look at it. If you really see that stakeholders management in a fair, equitable manner, the principle which we have really just discussed, one after another given by the Chanakya in his Kautilya Shastra, I think it is definitely going to really help us to ensure that we change the perspective from stakeholders management versus shareholders management to shareholders management and stakeholders management, or stakeholders management and shareholders management. It is and which is very important. It is versus is actually not. Actually, core interest of stakeholders and shareholders is actually common. Both of them are going to get benefited from long-term prosperity of the corporation. And if the corporate has to have long-term sustained growth and become prosper, it benefits not only the shareholders, it also benefits the customers, it benefits the employees, it benefits the vendors, it benefits the government in shape of higher taxes. Sustained growth is going to definitely benefit the society in which they are living, because it is going to provide employment, it is going to provide economic activity, and in several ways, every single corporate is going to definitely get benefit. So, if you remember 15th August 2020, what the Prime Minister Modi said from the Red Fort, he said that we need to respect the wealth creators. I think this is a very important statement which he has given as government. Similarly, as wealth creators, corporate need to respect all other stakeholders. Respect is respecting an equitable right of each and every constituent and giving them what they deserve, not more than what they deserve. But what they deserve is a question of how you really look at it. And more you look at equitably, more you look at based on the principles which you just discussed, consensus orientation, accountable, transparent, responsive, equitable, inclusive, effective and efficient, following the rule of law and participatory, I think more and more you are able to actually move towards sustained growth of the corporation, where both stakeholders as well as shareholders are going to get equal benefit. Efficient management. If you are efficiently managing, if you are effectively managing, in that case, you see ultimately the benefit is of both the shareholders as well as the stakeholders. You know, the management is efficient and effective. The employees, the customers, the vendors, everybody is going to gain. And in any case, their gain is the gain of the shareholders ultimately with larger wealth. Accountability of management to all. The management is accountable to all the stakeholders, whether it's shareholders or whether all other stakeholders. So I think what is important is the management, the overall management structure has to really feel, and not only feel, in the letter and spirit apply that you are accountable to all. Accountability will be coming when you really see that there is a proper consensus, there is a transparency, you are equitable, you are inclusive, you are effective, you are efficient, you follow the rule of law, and you are participatory. Shareholders management versus stakeholders management should be seen as stakeholders management and shareholders management. In economic and social reality of the commercial world, versus is fit only in academic diagram. You know, when you see versus, then you see versus means it looks like an enemy. You know, can somebody say that my customer is my enemy as a company? Whether my employees is my enemy? Whether my vendor is my enemy? Or whether the government is my enemy? No, not at all. They are all very, very important stakeholders. Rather, they are, without them, I cannot exist. Like Mahatma Gandhi said, it is for the customer that you exist. He is the purpose of it. The purpose of your existence is your customer, your stakeholders, all of the stakeholders. So why you are existing? Not for earning money alone. And how will you exist when you see only wealth maximization as your only tool, as your only object? That is only the result. But you have to really see how you are able to balance between the stakeholders as well as in the shareholders and provide fit benefit to each one. There is no way it could make commercial sense to think serving one without serving the another. Can you really think about serving the shareholders without serving the stakeholders? Or without serving the shareholders, can you service the stakeholders? Suppose you take shareholders for a ride and serve everybody but not the shareholders. The shareholders will not invest in your company. And when they're not going to invest in your company, how will you serve the other stakeholders? How will you meet your requirements for increasing requirements of money? Suppose you work inefficiently, ineffectively, you favor only your customers, you favor only your vendors, you favor only your employees. You don't look at the shareholders. Then also it is not going to work. The stakeholders versus a shareholder model is really only fit for academic treatise. I think that is what we really need to understand. We have to see it, all the stakeholders, including shareholders, as one team, and then accordingly really manage the whole thing. Now, how do you really bring stakeholders and shareholders together? Paying attention to one without the other would simply never work. I think this is the philosophy which the entire management, whether it is the topmost managing director, the CEO, the CFO, or the other key managerial personnel, has to really understand. That if a customer is not there, what is my requirement as a corporation? If the customer is not happy, customer is not able to really get a good quality of goods or good quality of service. Suppose as an auditor, I'm talking of an auditing corporation, as a LLP or as a partnership firm, what is my corporate social responsibility? That my auditee is able to have sustained growth. So unless they, as my customer, are being looked after by me in such a manner that internal control is perfect, at least adequate to ensure that there are no fraud, no error, or at least there are warning signals which comes out of internal control. It could be operational control, it could be financial control. Delegation of power is proper. There is no misuse of resources. There is no, you can say, diversion of resources, and there is effective and efficient utilization of resources. And also the business processes, the SOPs, the standard operating procedures are set in a way that my customer, my client, my auditee is able to actually satisfy the requirements of their shareholders, satisfy the requirements of their customers, satisfy the requirements of their vendors, and very, very importantly, meet all their regulatory requirements, being environmental friendly. I think in all areas, as an auditor, I have a role to play. So when I am as an auditor, I am a corporation. My customer, my client is my stakeholder. On the other hand, the other stakeholders are the government, because the government expectation is very different. And there could be expectation gap between what my client might be expecting, what my client management might be expecting, what the small shareholder of my client might be expecting, there might be, and what the government is expecting, what the employees working in the corporation which I'm auditing is expecting, what the environmentalists might be expecting from that corporation and from you, that you will report wherever there is a non-compliance. I think Mr. Gupta, when he was introducing, he talked about sustainability. I think when we have actually examined sustainability of any organization, we did a detailed risk management study on behalf of Coal India and try to find out how we can be more sustainable as a corporation, how we can sustain. Because why sustainability is important, we have seen, for example, in the film area, Kodak, for example, one of the very large producer of the Kodak film. Today, they possibly do not exist. We had Corus as the largest, carbon manufacturer, for carbon copying. The carbon has really lost its utility, and most of it, I don't know whether Corus really exists or not. It is not seen at all. So with the changing time, things are definitely bound to change. So your sustainability is very, very important. How do you sustain? By ensuring that you shift your strategies, your governance practices with the changing expectations of various stakeholders. One stakeholder is shareholder. The very other important stakeholder is your customer, your employees, your vendors, the government, the environment. And you see, sometimes even the international community is definitely going to have an impact. The kind of impact, for example, authorities like FATCA and and various other authorities are able to really bring on my table that whether I am compliant based on international money laundering laws or not, all kind of things one has to be. Otherwise, it is going to negatively impact. Shareholders themselves today are becoming increasingly active on the stakeholder issues because they understand, the shareholders actually understand. If they are not active in relation to other stakeholders' issues, then possibly they are going to lose. So it is enlightenment of the self-interest. It is in your interest as a shareholder or as a management who is working for the shareholders. It is in your interest. It is the self-interest of the shareholders that all the other stakeholders are managed very, very appropriately and equitably. And I think based on those principles, which we really talked about, referring to Chanakya and Kautilya Arthashastra, I think that is where it is there. Satisfaction of each stakeholder will impact your intangible wealth. What is your intangible wealth? Your credibility in the marketplace, your goodwill in the marketplace. Credibility may be out of customer satisfaction. Credibility might be out of that you are not going to have, mixing of a, you will not give something which is mixed up with a different thing, telling that it is pure and giving something impure. Credibility may come on sustained, you don't live only for the guarantee period and you go beyond for several years. Years after years, you are able to give service, trouble-free service, to your customer. I think this is all which is going to give credibility. It is not only only just mere compliance कि भाई आप customer ने मेरे से X product मांगा, X goods मांगी या services मांगी, and I give him the service or I give him the goods, but don't worry about whether it is going to give him sustained benefit or not, whether he is happy with it or not, whether the service, whether it is of high quality or not. So credibility is a long way, it goes a long way, and ultimately it impacts your goodwill. Whether you are a professional corporate or you are a industry corporate or you're a service provider or you're a goods provider, your brand goodwill will get built up only when you have a fair treatment to all of the stakeholders. So it is going to have an impact on your price earning ratio also. Why PE ratio from one organization to another differ from 5-time multiples to even up to 40, 50 times multiples. Why? As compared to earning your prices many times, because the credibility which those corporations like Infosys, corporations like Wipro, corporations like Tata's have really achieved, corporations like Birla's have achieved, that they will work credibly. And wherever any fraction of them stop working credibly, I think the goodwill is going to erode like anything. We have seen the very, very large corporations falling like pack of cards. And that is, if you want to really avoid for your corporation, you better have a proper balance between the stakeholders management and the shareholders management. Even your ability to raise funds for growth is going to get definitely impacted. Suppose you are not an environment friendly person. Then what is possibly going to happen to you could be, seen from one of the Chinese example, where China Petro, they wanted to raise $10 billion from the international market. And various pension funds and various foreign institutional investors and various other investors across the world felt that China Petro is not careful about their environment policy. They are not taking care of the society, and there may be adverse impact. So rather than $10 billion they wanted to raise, they could not really get commitment beyond $3 billion. And they had to actually, postpone their fundraising exercise. And based on the criticism which they get, they had to actually really go and redo their policies in respect of environment. And they have started a major plan to actually make additional investment to improve their environmental practices. So I think that is very, very loud and clear. Even you can possibly also, when in our response, you will also be able to give me several such examples from various corporates as to how it is really impacting your price earning ratio and your ability to raise funds. Suppose today Infosys wants to raise funds, people will easily give, because their corporate governance practices are such that they take care of shareholders. They take care of all of the stakeholders, including customers and including rule of law and everything. But suppose somebody who might be making very good profit, but the management approach is not credible, will you give him your money? Because he is not being fair to existing shareholders, he is not being fair to existing customers, he is not being fair to existing vendors. Will he be fair to me? I think that is what is really going to really decide. You will not even, where the question of investing money, you may not even deal with him. You may even refuse to accept his audit, even if he offer you a good fee. But when you see somebody who is not a good management, whose credibility is not good, I think we as auditing fraternity has been refusing our audit. I think that is what is client acceptance all about. So we accept a client only who is credible, who manages stakeholders and shareholders' interest in a balanced manner and not in an imbalanced manner. I'm not saying that corporation need to become Dharmaraj, or they become yogi, or they look at everything from the viewpoint of a saint. No, I don't think that is the intention. The intention is to balance everything. The intention is not to become a crooked. You need to be fair, transparent, and of course, you can be shrewd about your business. You can be innovative. You can be doing anything for growth of your business, but nothing negative. You need to be positive. Positive approach is a must. So stakeholders management is ultimately going to enrich the shareholders. That is very, very important message which I want to actually give through this particular meeting. And that is how the CSR committee has actually really kept this today's topic. Employees, for example, your best HR practices. What is best HR practices? That you actually have proper policy at the time of appointment, proper policy at the time of appraisal, proper benefits which is going to different constituents of different levels of HR. There was a study which was made in which, out of that study becomes very interesting when you really analyze the average pay scale which is being given to different stratas and average growth which is given to different stratas of employees. When the company is growing, how much you are participative with your other people actually at different level. You don't participate with them only, okay, this man will be available at 15,000, 20,000 rupees, or this man will be available for 1 lakh rupees, that is his market price. But suppose as a team, the people work hard and is able to grow your corporation by 100% or by 200% or by 300%, it is very, very important to share with them. The second aspect which I like to talk about is training. It is very important to train all your people, because that is a very important part that will help the shareholders, that will help in increasing your profitability. At the same time, it will enrich the employees. There is a feeling among a very cross section. I think I am requested to talk to all your clients and tell them that they should spend money, work hard towards training their employees. Even every small mid-sized business also need to really spend time and energy on training their employees, because their cost is going to get reduced. The argument which will come from the other side is, sir, मैं तो आज train करूंगा, कल वो कहीं चला जाएगा भाग के. भाग के नहीं जाएगा. अगर नहीं जाएगा तो क्या होगा? आपने ट्रेन किया नहीं तो एकदम घटिया आदमी आपके पास काम करता रहेगा. तो या तो आप घटिया आदमी से काम करा लो या ट्रेन्ड आदमी से काम करा लो. What is more important, that an untrained person remains with you, or a trained person work for some time and then there's a rotation which is going on. Although I was very surprised to see Japanese philosophy. All our Japanese clients, what they have told us is, in Japan there is a feeling that you take people only from their colleges, or from where they are graduating. A doctor from a medical college, or a chartered accountant from a chartered accountant institute as soon as they qualify. And in their case, 98% of the people actually work full life with one single corporation where they join. Whereas the same thing is possibly not happening in India, because possibly employees cannot be given at fault at every time. Possibly corporations are also not looking after them properly. That's why employees change. They look for different greener pastures, so-called greener pastures, and sometimes they get lost into the absence of green, actually, and they get into a Registan. But what most important point I want to really say is, it is important to have best HR practices, and training is a very important part. You will increase their efficiency. Even as a chartered accountant, I will request you train your own people, your partners, your employed chartered accountants, as well as trainees. Spend time with them, energy with them. Not only you train them, bring professional trainers to your organization who train them in best practices, who train them how to do a particular job, who train them how to use technology and how to understand various practices. And maybe within the profession also, there are several very, very good people. You can request them to come and join and train your people. Or they can go to various training programs being organized by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India at the national level, at the regional level, at the branch level, or even at the chapter level, or at the study group level. So I think training is very, very important. So you need to train your employees. Now, next point is welfare. If the organization is earning, it is important to actually really look at their welfare of your employees, whether their housing accommodations are proper, whether they are able to actually have proper transport facilities, whether they have a proper living standard, whether their health needs, whether their security needs, or whether the education needs of their children are being properly met. If you start looking at the corporate and balance it properly with your other stakeholders, I think it is definitely going to really give you much better results. The corona as a epidemic has actually treated us a very different philosophy. And it is very, very important for us to really understand what is there today may not be there tomorrow. Tomorrow morning itself, they may not be there. It is very important to actually ensure that we look after our employees so that they are not only safe, they are healthy, and they are able to give sustained, the support to the organization. Now coming to the customer as a next stakeholder for enriching the shareholder. The customer, you need to have a genuine and fair trading. You need to continuously keep on adding value. What is continuous adding value? I think I'll give an example. State Bank of India, for example. For our office building, we borrowed a sum of about 15 crores from State Bank of India and gave them, a huge collateral. And of course, the loan was going on all right. And I think disbursement after disbursement was happening. Once the disbursement getting completed, originally we agreed for about 15% as the 15.5% to be precise, as the rate of interest. But on their own, they saw value in us as a customer, as a compliant customer, and they actually reduced without even approaching them the rate of interest by 3% straight, reduced from 15.5 to 12.5. I am talking about 10 years ago period when the rate of interest was much higher. Of course, today rate of interest have gone down, but in those times, everybody is looking for maximization of their own wealth. State Bank of India look at adding continuous value. So to me as a customer lifelong, I know that I am dealing with a bank who is going to be fair, and he's a friend, not only in need, he's a friend indeed. Now a professional behavior. How do you really deal your people professionally or only emotionally? Emotion is not required actually. Emotion is required definitely, but not in professional dealing. You need to deal them professionally and provide them best possible professional service, best to provide them best possible goods. So deal with the customer with care them actually. You might be in any sector. You might be in health sector. You might be in transportation sector. You might be in financial services sector. You might be in any sector. Your client may be in any sector. I think the message has to really go loud and clear to them that if they look after that for the customer satisfaction based on timely delivery, correct and proper delivery, maybe deliver more than what you really promise, no compromise on the quality, better quality do not cost extra. Of course, I think we have just discussed that better quality do not cost extra. So you give him something called consumer surplus. All of us know the economic, there is a principle. So you give him a consumer surplus. Suppose my client as a chartered accountant, he gives me 4 lakh rupees as fees. But if I'm going to give him a result only for worth 4 lakhs, then I think I'm not a good chartered accountant. Cost, of course, is apart. Once you accepted an assignment, never worry about the cost. Whatever may be the cost, mind my words, sir, please understand from me, my successful practice, that it will not cost extra. It is only a mindset. Better quality never costs extra. Better quality will only reduce your cost because you will not be required to repeat. You will not be doing the same thing again and again. And the message will go loud and clear to the entire organization. When the boss is so much particular about quality, every single person will become very, very important, particular about quality. So no compromise on quality is the dictum with which if you manage your corporate, you will enrich the stakeholders as customer and correspondingly have the best benefit to the shareholder. Because a satisfied customer is going to definitely bring you prosperity. He's going to bring you repeat business. He's going to give you larger business, and he's going to also introduce you to several other new customers, your clients for that matter. So proper content, quantity, features, whatever you have committed, give him better. You may talk about 10 features, not even one should be absent. Rather, you can give him 10 extra, which you may not really talk about, but which are there. It should go as a pleasant surprise to him. Okay, oh, this software can even do this. Or these goods have so much features. So very good. The taste is so good. The content is so good. The packing is so good. So I think this is what is going to really ultimately matter. So an approach to enrich the shareholder will only come from enriching the stakeholders. You actually manage the stakeholders very, very well. Now, tax management. I think no tax evasion is, of course, very, very clear. You can do tax management. You can take benefit of all possible schemes of the government. Whether it is, for example, a scheme of affordable housing, then tax is exempted to affordable housing company. But don't get into any tax evasion. No tax evasion at all, because tax evasion is going to bring you problems after problems. Your company is going to actually be always worried about the tax man who is going to possibly come any day knocking to your offices or to your residence. So I think that is a message which we have to really give loud and clear. मुझे याद है अभी तक, I remember when Mr. Chidambaram, our finance minister, reduced the income tax maximum annual rate from 50% to 40%, and then 40% to 30%. Shri S.P. Chajad, our past president at that time, he made a statement in the council. He said, only a fool will evade taxes. I asked him this question, sir, why are you saying so? And his answer when I was presenting by way of a presentation to Honorable Prime Minister personally in one-to-one meeting, this faceless assessment scheme, which he ultimately accepted. I told Mr. Chhajar's story to the Prime Minister also, because somebody made a remark that it is only you chartered accountants, some Joint Secretary made a remark, you chartered accountants only tell people how much tax one has to pay. And it is you who can really decide whether tax is more or tax is less. So I told him that हमारे तो देखिए पूर्वज, हमारे जो senior हैं, SP Chhajar साहब ने बड़ी अच्छी बात कही है, that I am going to share with you now. ये बात मैंने प्राइम मिनिस्टर से भी शेयर की है स्टोरी, और आपसे भी शेयर करता हूँ. तो हमने बताया प्राइम मिनिस्टर साहब को कि हमारे छाजर साहब ये कहते हैं कि only a fool will now only evade taxes. Why? He said that about 10 crore suppose you take out of the company without paying taxes. आपने खर्चा डाल दिया, बोगस खर्चा डाल दिया, 10 करोड़ का खर्चा आपने डाल दिया, तो कितने पैसे बचाए आपने? मान लिया 30% का टैक्स रेट समझे, उस समय की बात हम कर रहे थे, तो 3 करोड़ रुपए आपने बचाए. खर्चा डालने के लिए भी आप समझिए, आपने मतलब एक तरीके से 3 करोड़ रुपए आपने बचाए, 10 करोड़ का खर्चा डाल दिया, 7 करोड़ आपके पास रह गए, 7 के भी 6.5 करोड़ रह गए आपके पास. अगर आपने टैक्स दिया तो 7 करोड़ बचते. ये हो सकता है कि उसमें 50-1 लाख रुपए आपका खर्चा डालने में भी लग गए, 5% का खर्चा हो गया, तो आपके पास बेसिकली आपने कितने पैसे बचाए? समझा 2.5 करोड़ रुपए बचाए. मैं कहता हूँ आप सब पूरे 3 करोड़ रुपए आपने बचा लिए. किसी तरह आप बहुत ओवर स्ट्रीट स्मार्ट हो, आपने 3 करोड़ बचा लिए क्योंकि आपने खर्चा डाल दिया, बोगस खर्चा डाल दिया, टैक्स इवेजन कर लिया. उसका रिजल्ट क्या हुआ? उसका रिजल्ट ये हुआ भाई कि आपके घर में कैश इकट्ठा हो गया, 7 करोड़ रुपए आपके घर में. एक तरफ तो आता पक्के का पैसा होता आपकी कंपनी में, कॉर्पोरेट में, वो 7 करोड़ होता, अभी 10 करोड़ है आपके पास कैश में. नाउ व्हाट विल यू डू? SP छाजर साहब ने बताया कि अगर आप पैसा किसी को उधार देंगे तो 10 करोड़ पे जो 2 नंबर के पैसे का ब्याज है जितना आएगा, 7 करोड़ के 1 नंबर के पैसे का ब्याज उससे ज्यादा है. कम से कम उतना तो आएगा ही आएगा. Then the risk of the lending that money, suppose आप उधार पे ही चढ़ा रहे हो, you are a money lender, तो आपने उधार ही चढ़ाया, इन्वेस्ट ही किया, तो आपका रिस्क ऑफ दैट नंबर 2 मनी विच यू आर इन्वेस्टिंग इज मेनी टाइम्स मोर. हो सकता है 10-20-30% लोग आपका पैसा ही ना वापस करें, और हो सकता है आपने पक्के में किया तो हो सकता है 2-4% का ही आपका नॉन परफॉर्मिंग एसेट हो, तो उस हिसाब से भी देखा तो फर्दर लॉस हो गया. और ऐसा हो सकता है आपका पैसा आए ही नहीं अगर आपने लिया. तो उन्होंने कहा जब 7 करोड़ से कमाई भी उतनी फर्दर हो सकती है और 10 करोड़ से कमाई कम हो सकती है. एक बात और देखिए उन्होंने कही कि ये 10 करोड़ जो बहुत साल तक आपके पास पता लगा कहीं किसी तहखाने में बंद रहा, अनयूज रहा, या ठीक से आपने उसे आपके बिजनेस में नहीं लगाया. 7 करोड़ आप उधार देते, 10 करोड़ आप उधार दोगे और 7 करोड़ आप बिजनेस में लगाओगे, तो बिजनेस में तो रिटर्न आएगी आपको 24% की, 36% की, हो सकता है 15% की, हो सकता है 18% की, और कुछ नहीं तो मोस्ट मिनिमम 15-16% की रिटर्न तो आएगी बिजनेस में, इफ यू आर इन गुड बिजनेस. So, and that 10 crore will never give you more than 7-8%. So you are actually losing money. तो मैं प्राइम मिनिस्टर साहब के लिए एक बात और ऐड की इसमें. मैंने कहा सर प्राइम मिनिस्टर साहब, मैंने काउंसिल मीटिंग में एक बात और ऐड की थी उस दिन छाजर साहब के सामने. मैंने छाजर साहब को सर एक चीज और, मैं बिकॉज आई हैव बीन प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ नेशनल स्टॉक एक्सचेंज माई सेल्फ, सो आई एडेड हिम. मैंने कहा सर मैं नेशनल स्टॉक एक्सचेंज के पर्सपेक्टिव से एक बात और कहता हूँ. ये आपने जो 10 करोड़ रुपए निकाले, तो अगर आपका पी मल्टीपल जो है उसमें अगर मान लिया 10 करोड़ आपने कैश निकाले, तो 7 करोड़ एक तरीके से कंपनी का नुकसान हुआ. 7 करोड़ का कम प्रॉफिट आपने दिखाया. अगर 7 करोड़ का कम प्रॉफिट दिखाया, अगर पी मल्टीपल आपका 10 का है, तो आपका 70 करोड़ का नुकसान हुआ आपकी वेल्थ में. आपका पी मल्टीपल 20 का है, तो आपका 140 करोड़ का नुकसान हुआ. आपका पी मल्टीपल अगर 40 का है, यूर कंपनी लाइक इन्फोसिस, तो आपका 280 करोड़ का नुकसान हुआ. और अगर आपका पी मल्टीपल 40 से गिर के 5 रह गया, तो आप समझिए कितना नुकसान हुआ, सारे पैसे में नुकसान हो गया. तो अल्टीमेटली when we need to share this story with all of our clients, when they are going for marriages of their children, when they are going to deal with anybody business, then how much tax they are paying, how much income is there in number one, how much wealth is there properly which they can show, that is what matters. That is their goodwill, that is their credibility. जो पैसा तहखाने में पड़ा है, जंगल में मोर नाचा किसने देखा. So I think छाजर जी की बात बिल्कुल सही है, and I think we could convince Prime Minister that chartered accountants are actually committed against tax evasion as a community. There could be some black sheeps, Black sheeps are there in every profession. And in that meeting itself, Prime Minister Modi, I must thank him, accepted that the scrutiny, the assessment is going to be completely faceless. And the model which we as Chartered Accountant Group has developed, I was, of course, the group leader. I alone presented on behalf of the group because they never wanted more than one person. So as a group leader, I presented to him, and he was so happy that Chartered Accountants had come out with such a great solution that everything can be without any human touch, and it will eradicate corruption at the end of the corporate as well as at the end of the tax officers, and will remove tax evasion to substantially, and will also reduce tax corruption substantially. So I think this tax management is a very, very important part of enriching shareholders as well as stakeholders. I have explained it in a very great detail. Regulatory compliance in letter and spirit is very important. Not only you follow the rule just like that, just follow them in strict. कोशिश करिए. जब आप कोशिश करेंगे, आप देखिए आपके shareholders को कितनी enrichment होती है. फिर आपकी reputation बढ़ के आपके 5 multiple से you can start the journey towards 10 to 20 to 40 PE multiple, and then see if you want to raise money either in by private placement or among the close circle of friends, or whether you raise money at public. I think it will be so easy for you to really raise money for your growth. That growth is going to come rocking to your doorstep. And of course, corporate governance principles of Chanakya, which I have just explained to you, one needs to actually really follow. And if you are being fair with your own people, if your corporate governance practices are clear, then that is, of course, the real CSR. That is the real corporate social responsibility. That is the real stakeholders management. That is the real shareholders management. Environment and nature friendly approach is something which is going to manage your stakeholders, which is going to enrich your shareholders. Because if you are an enemy of nature, green tribunal ही आपको बंद कर देगा किसी भी दिन, क्या आप ग्रोथ करोगे? कोई सुप्रीम कोर्ट का जजमेंट आ जाएगा, कोई हाई कोर्ट का जजमेंट आ जाएगा, suddenly you will be stopped. You might be able to make money quite significantly, but you will be stopped. अगर आप मान लिया आपने पत्थरों की खदान है, उसमें से आप छोटे पत्थर माइनिंग करके निकालते हैं, अगर आपने एनवायरनमेंट को खराब किया तो 3 महीने 6 महीने साल भर चलेगा आपका वो जो प्रोग्राम है उससे डिगिंग करके और उसको बारीक करके बेचने का, उसके बाद सरकार बंद कर देगी उसको. गोवा में आपने देखा कितने दिन माइनिंग बंद रही बिकॉज इट वाज नॉन एनवायरनमेंट फ्रेंडली. And we have seen even in Gurgaon, near Gurgaon, all mining was stopped because of the environmental issues only. So it is ultimately you will grow and prosper only when your environment and nature friendly approach you have. Lender, financial and operating leverage management. I think you need to actually also, as a corporate, need to really see that you manage your lenders properly. Financial and operating levers is managed in a manner that you are able to service your debt in time. No diversion of funds take place. No misuse of resources take place. Because it is going to adversely impact the shareholders' wealth and long-term growth. बंद हो जाएगा बिजनेस, चलेगा नहीं ज्यादा दिन. देखिए कई बार आपको आपके कई एडवाइजर, आपके जो मैनेजमेंट हैं, क्लाइंट्स के मैनेजमेंट हैं, उनको बहुत लोग एडवाइस करने आते हैं. वो कहते हैं यार क्या जरूरत है, एनपीए हो जाने दे, अपना बैंक आएगा सेटल करने के लिए. तो बैंक तो आएगा सेटल करने के लिए, आपकी ग्रोथ तो मर गई. मान लिया बैंक ने आपको सेटल कर भी दिया, थोड़ा बहुत ब्याज छोड़ भी दिया, तो आपको जो बिजनेस का नुकसान हो वो आप नहीं समझ पा रहे, एक्चुअली नहीं समझ पा रहे. और जो रेपुटेशन का नुकसान है तो कई गुना हो गया. कल आपको कोई भी बड़ा बिजनेस करना है, वही सेम बैंक कहेगा यार ये तो आदमी हर बार जो है ना कंसेशन मांगता है और दिखाता है यार ये इस वजह से हो गया, उस वजह से हो गया, और इसके बजाय कोई और अच्छा कस्टमर देखते हैं, इसको नहीं देंगे पैसे. सो ही स्टॉप गिविंग यू मनी. सो इट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. वेंडर सपोर्ट, vendor development, vendor training, fair dealing and timely payment as per agreed terms will ensure quality, reliability and timely supply at reasonable price. देखिए सारे शब्द नहीं है, ये बिजनेस है, दिस इज प्योर बिजनेस. सो अगर आपने अपने वेंडर को ठीक से सपोर्ट किया, उसकी ट्रेनिंग में मदद की, उसको एस्टेब्लिशमेंट में मदद की, उसकी अगर कुछ मशीन है उनको भी रिव्यू किया, भाई ये सारी मशीनें ठीक से लगी नहीं लगी हैं, कहाँ मशीन बैलेंसिंग हो सकती है, कहाँ प्रोसेस इंप्रूव होकर मुझे बेटर क्वालिटी मिल सकती है. I remember, one of our partners is a major investor in a e-commerce portal, and they were having problems in getting supply of lenses and spectacles from reliable people. Actually, they were. One day, I met the son and brother and the sister, the two promoters, and explained them how important for them is to actually support their vendors. And I think from that day itself, they decided. They actually went to 4 or 5 major vendors, and they decided based on our advice that of course we are going to actually invest equity into you, and also going to invest more money into you so that you improve your production processes. So in that process, the 4 vendors agreed, and I think they invested in equity. And then thereafter, they not only invested in equity, they improved their production processes, they improved their training processes, they improved their quality processes. And I think the business has never seen back thereafter. And they are one of the very few e-commerce players who are in plus, who are positive. I'm not purposely naming their name because that will, of course, that is against the confidentiality. So vendor support, vendor development, vendor training, fair dealing, and timely payment as per agreed terms are very important from your side. Then vendor is going to reciprocate, definitely going to reciprocate by good quality, a reliable product which is going to give you, and timely supply and reasonable prices. Because vendor ko bhi pata hai, if I'm not being reasonable with him, such a supporting customer of mine is going to run away. So you need to help yourself by helping them. I think that is how a stakeholder management will enrich the shareholder. I think Coal India case study, of course, I have already shared with you, but 1 or 2 points only which are left for me. That, for example, as stakeholders, the Coal India took a decision that will give highly subsidized coal to power producers. Those people who are providing power, they agree to give. There is a power linkage which is given to them, and I think we came out with them also with a commitment of reducing their cost further, their cost to the customer. It was a multi-side agreement. So they reduced their cost of the power which they are going to supply to the nation as a whole, and we reduced the price of Coal India coal was reduced by about 40%, 40% lower as compared to the market price, and as compared to all other alternative sources of supply. So the other customer, whatever price we are giving them much lower prices. So it was costing less, at least by 40%. And I think once we have done even the bidding that if you are able to reduce your ultimate power price further, we are going to give you further concession in the coal supply. So that is how we actually help several stakeholders. The stakeholder as the power producer, as our customer, direct customer, indirect customer as the power buyers, and ultimately the country as a whole, because of which Coal India exists in this country. Shifting 95% production to open cast for employee safety, I've already explained to you the purpose of it. Substantial investment in recurring expenditure on safety, health, and welfare of neighborhood. One very good example, very important example I'm going to give you. We have a scheme of special bonus and special incentive. So we decided, actually, as the audit committee, we decided and recommended to the board, and ultimately board accepted our recommendation that the points which are given, it is a point system which the government has prescribed, that you need to give the different points based on which only you give different kind of bonuses. So we had the point system. So we decided in whichever area there is going to be a minor accident, then you lose so much point. Where is going to be a major accident, you are going to further lose points. Where you are going to actually, if there is a fatal accident somewhere, if there is a death, then you are going to lose further points. And if there is a repeat death in the next quarter, where if there is a repeat fatal accident, maybe in the same area, same region, then you are going to get even negative marks, and maybe you may even skip your bonus also completely, not only for one person, for the entire team as a whole. And the major impact of that also is going to come on the more senior you are, more impact it is going to come. And I think initially we said that the chief general manager and the general manager level people will have, even if there is a minor accident, they will have a impact on their bonuses, actually on their incentives which they're getting. Containment of pollution by coal processing, transportation, and loading through closed pipe conveyor system, that of course I have explained to you. No, CSR, corporate social responsibility, is not spending 2% of profit alone. CSR is not 2%. CSR is much, much wider, actually. Like for example, in Coal India, out of our profitability of about 25,000 crores, 2% of that, about 550 crores, we are actually spending every year on CSR. But that is not the only spend which you do. That, of course, is a legal mandate. But the real spend is that 30-40% reduction which we gave. We ensured that the trucks do not go uncovered, unguarded, and we refuse the taking the trucks which are not fully covered, fully closed, and they're not creating pollution when there is a truck transportation of coal. Like all those initiatives are very, very important as a stakeholders management. And it may be initial cost might be more, but the ultimate cost is much lesser, because it is going to impact health of our people, whether they're employees, whether they're living in the areas which are nearby to the mines, and the things like. So I think not only with reference to Coal India, I think even otherwise, CSR is not limited to the 2% alone. The real CSR is that you do stakeholders management in a manner that it is ultimately going to get benefit to the shareholders. I think this case study also, I've already told you during my discussion that they wanted to raise, of course, PetroChina, initially 5 billion, then they increased it to 10 billion. The Chinese government hoped they will get it, but they could not even get $3 billion. And of course, the investors primarily boycotted from US market and UK market. They said, but you are not actually, your behavior as a corporate citizen is not good. So we are not really going to really give you any benefit. So I think I have completed my presentation, but I think before I close and open the house for question answers, I'm going to really talk about few more aspects, more particularly with reference to the role of the auditors, because auditors' responsibility is not only towards the management who appoint you or the promoter who is going to actually decide your remuneration. Our responsibility, professional responsibility, our legal responsibility, our moral responsibility, and our ethical responsibility is towards all stakeholders. I think that is, once we understand, we'll be a successful auditor. That is what is the message which is very important for us. I think that is what Prime Minister Modi told us on 1st July 2017. And time and again, of course, he is repeating it. Stakeholders don't have to bother only for the majority shareholders, but we need to actually really see as to, there could be internal stakeholders like directors, managers, KMPs, employees, and of course shareholders. But there are external stakeholders like creditors, vendors, customers, community, government agencies, and of course auditors is one more stakeholder which is there. So with vendors, are always looking for additional orders from you. Employees may be looking for good paychecks from you. That is what they are directly looking for. But what we can give to them as a fair dealing, I think that is which will decide better corporate governance. I think I will like to close here and possibly stop presenting. I think Sonia ji, you can possibly open it for question answer. If any questions have come to you, any comments. I think this is not something on which questions are going to be more. Comments are going to be more. I think please announce the name of the participant. How many participants are there today with us?
So we have not received any questions as of now. So we can continue.
Hani, I think from my side, I've already concluded practically, but I think still I'll talk about, how one can really add value as a corporate. Is possibly, like the startups are creating great value. Latest Zomato IPO, or whether it is Swiggy or whether it is Baiju, the greatest value by innovation which these people are getting. They're adding value to their customers, and that in that process they are adding value to themselves as a corporate also. So if there is a question, a comment, I have not much to further add on to this actually. I have completed my presentation because that is how actually I designed that. I'll leave about 20 minutes for question answers. And if there are no questions, there is no issue at all. I think we can conclude the program a little early. or if there are some comments you want to make, or the chairman committee or the vice chairman committee want to make, or any other participant want to make, please allow them. If any participant is interested to make any comment, they can raise hands and then tell you, then make some comments.
Yeah, actually the system does not allow directly participating by the participants. They can raise questions on their
एक्चुअली टॉपिक ऐसा नहीं है सोनिया जी जिसमें लोग क्वेश्चन पूछेंगे, इसमें लोग कमेंट करेंगे, कमेंट पे कमेंट चाहेंगे.
No comments have also been received as of now. I think we can get the comments after that feedback.
मेरी तरफ से आप प्लीज फीडबैक जरूर दीजिए टॉप मैनेजमेंट को कि such kind of exercise has to be more interactive. And I think you need to give opportunity. I know sometimes you have very large number of people, sometimes 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people are there. So you can be always selective by allowing people to come. But unless it is participative, it doesn't add that much value, because one-sided talk does not really create, bigger knowledge base. Because knowledge comes from, I know very, very learned people are attending today's presentation. So if their comments would have come, I think all of us would have got enriched actually. I am very thankful to you and to CSR committee for giving me this opportunity. And we are always there as past council members, as well as members of this profession, to support each and every member. And I think what is most important for us as chartered accountant community to really understand is that we actually work for the upliftment of the community's image together. And I think that can do only when we actually look after our stakeholders very, very better. And stakeholders management is going to improve our image most importantly. And shareholders helping each other as a chartered accountant will also be very important in that regard. Thank you very much.
So thank you, sir, for covering this session so well and sharing your experience, your rich experience in all the fields.
Thank you.
Actually, this is a very basic topic, and this is a build up on the new laws that have come in for the Amendment Act, CSR Amendment Policy, and now we have to include this in CARO reporting also. So we wanted the participants to gain knowledge on what is the basic, why CSR is important, and why we have to look towards the stakeholders also, not only the profit motive. We have to look at the stakeholders also, what are their needs and how it is to be reported.
ये बड़ी अच्छी बात है ये आपकी, उनका माइंडसेट बदलना बहुत जरूरी है. हमारे सारे क्लाइंट्स का माइंडसेट जब भी बदलेगा जब हमारे चार्टर्ड अकाउंट भाइयों को कम्युनिकेट होगा. And when they one-to-one talk, one-to-many talk at all levels in their clients, they are able to communicate how important it is to actually look your corporate as a corporate citizen.
CSR should not only be a benevolent act, but now it's becoming more of a legal and statutory obligation, and you have to go beyond that actually also, beyond the statutory obligation.
Beyond statutory obligation. I think as soon as you really realize, I remember, in Coal India, we looked at people where, there was a sickness which was coming, which was costing, a single operation was costing 15 lakhs or so. Among the young children, it was coming. I'm not naming that. I'm not able to name, those.
Yes, sir. We understand.
Because we are chartered accountants, सारी बीमारियों के नाम भी बड़े complex होते हैं. So we worked out a special relationship with the Chennai-based medical institution. They created all those facilities, and we spent quite a amount of money. And then, they started, this is a life-saving operation. And the operation cost minimum was 15 lakhs. So not only the cost of machines, but also cost of processes was actually sponsored by Coal India Limited. Now, one thing which I forgot, which I like to actually talk to the participants, very important. That is the example of Alfred Nobel. I think this is, I'm sure the participants will be very happy to really hear. Alfred Nobel को तो हम लोग सब जानते हैं, जिसने नोबेल पुरस्कार को जन्म दिया, पर शायद हम उनके जीवन के विषय में, उनकी लाइफ के विषय में, about their life, we may not be that conversant. I've read through his life history, and to some extent, with reference to CSR, I'm going to actually talk about it. A small thing. Mr. Alfred Nobel, became very, very ill at a time, and merge बढ़ता गया ज्यों-ज्यों दवा की, his illness kept on increasing. Because there was a time when he was actually at the largest producers of explosive and he was making very good amount of money. He was supplying to all governments and all militaries, etc. He had developed a very special feature of explosives, and even for mining and for defense purposes. And he was but how he was really looked at. One day he realized that he is being looked at as an angel of death, because it was resulting, all his product was actually creating death. But when he actually had fallen ill, पहले तो डॉक्टर ने कहा, the doctor said कि you will have 1 month. Then it came to 1 week, and then people said, any day you can go. That really bring you to a ground reality. So he thought that I have made so much money. How will I be really reckoned in future? मुझे लोग याद कैसे करेंगे? How will people remember me? People will remember me as angel of death. And one night, he took a decision. He kept on thinking that I'm going to die any day now. So, and he was not able to sleep for several days and nights. He was not even getting sleep. He became sleepless completely because of that illness which he had. But one night, he decided, after a lot of debate in his mind, that he will devote his entire wealth towards the humankind. And that is the night when he actually decided that he will actually, he wrote also himself alone. He wrote that, okay, I'm going to do like this. He will give prize for the peace. He will do, the person will go do best in physics, best in economics, best in chemistry, and the things like. He decided that night. And after deciding that he is going to actually donate everything which he belongs for the cause of for the public cause, he decided that day. Next day morning, he never got up. He used to get up at early morning, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. He was getting his bed tea. He never got up. His servants kept on thinking he must have gone. They kept on thinking that he must have gone. And ultimately at about 11:30, 12 in the morning, they decided to, barge in his room and woke him up. He was relaxed and he was quite well. He was better, and slowly he recovered, and then lived several years thereafter. He lived for several years thereafter. After, that is CSR magic, ultimately. That is what is the magic of this whole thing is. जब आप मैं छोड़ के समाज के प्रति समर्पित हो जाते हैं, तो समाज और जो ऑलमाइटी गॉड है, आपके कर्मों का हिसाब जो है ना, वो बदल जाता है. आपके कर्मों से बदलता है आपके कर्मों का हिसाब. तो CSR तो आपका कर्म है. आप जैसे कर्म करेंगे वैसे फल देगा भगवान. ये है गीता का ज्ञान. तो एल्फ्रेड नोबल को भी वही मिला. He decided that he will no more be angel of death. He will be angel of peace. And he decided, एल्फ्रेड नोबल का पुरस्कार देखिए आजकल सबको मिलता है, जिसको भी मिलता है उसका ही नाम हो जाता है. तो एल्फ्रेड नोबल ने कितना नायाब काम किया. लोग पीस के प्रति लगते हैं, लोग फिजिक्स के डेवलपमेंट के प्रति लगते हैं, लोग साइंटिफिक डेवलपमेंट के लगते हैं. ये सब में किसका फायदा होता है? सारे स्टेक होल्डर्स का फायदा. किसी एक आदमी का फायदा नहीं होता. तो उस बात को मद्देनजर रखते अगर हम CSR को देखते हैं, तो स्टीव जॉब्स भी यही कह के गए हैं, जो एप्पल के जो हमारे प्रवर्तक थे, प्रमोटर थे, उन्होंने भी कहा कि कॉर्पोरेट की जो मेजर रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी दैट इज टुवर्ड्स ऑल स्टेक होल्डर्स. यू आर नॉट हियर टू ओनली मेक मनी. Making money is incidental, which is bound to come when you do well. Actually, when you look after all the stakeholders, money is bound to walk in like anything. And that is even our personal example when we see ourselves. When I see my last 40 years, when you actually work in a manner, I've seen not only myself, I've seen all my council colleagues also, most of them, the manner, the selflessly with the way they work, slowly and slowly it comes, and Almighty God comes and help them in their better financials, better acceptability, better goodwill, and better image, because they work hard for the entire profession. So it is ultimately what you give back to the society. Society is going to give you back many times. एक बहुत अच्छी बात कही थी, हमारे एक दोस्त हैं मिस्टर गोयल, उनका काम ही है समाज के लिए, वो कंट्रीब्यूशन खुद भी करते हैं, लोगों से इकट्ठा भी करते हैं. उन्होंने एक बात बड़ी अच्छी समझाई थी कि जब आप किसी के ऊपर कोई एहसान करते हैं, कोई चैरिटी करते हैं, कोई आप फिलैंथ्रोपी करते हैं, तो आप ये मत एक्सपेक्ट करें कि उससे आपको कुछ मिलेगा, या किसी के लिए कुछ मदद करते हैं आप ये एक्सपेक्ट मत करें कुछ उससे मिलेगा. जो मदद आप मिस्टर ए के लिए करते हैं, उसका बेनिफिट आपको मिस्टर बी के थ्रू मिल सकता है, मिस्टर सी के थ्रू मिल सकता है, मिस्टर डी के थ्रू मिल सकता है. ये तो ऑलमाइटी गॉड ने डिसाइड करना है किसके थ्रू मिलेगा. तो रियल CSR, रियल कॉर्पोरेट सोशल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी इज this is spiritual thought. So if once this spiritual thought really sets into each and every chartered accountant, I think we'll be much better as a profession. And we are much better as a profession. We inculcate that spiritual thought into every single client of ours. That is what is going to actually really make all the difference. So I think with this message, I want to close now. Thank you very much. Thanks to all of you for listening me for patiently for such a long time. Thank you for CSR committee. Thank to Soni ji, to you, to Sri Gupta ji, and to the Vice Chairman also for giving me this opportunity of talking to all of you. Thank you. Namaskar.
Thank you, sir. And thank you for this message also. Very good message. I hope all the CAs will inculcate in their daily lives also. Thank you, sir. And this is the third day of our VCM series. I wish to announce here the next fourth day will be the next Saturday. And we are holding the series every Saturday from 2 to 4. Today, actually, we didn't get that time slab, so we had to take it at 1 to 3. But we are holding this VCM series every day from 2 to 4. So I wish all of you will join us in the next session also. And next day, our topic will be on CSR reporting. So that is a very important topic. So thank you, everyone, and see you in the next session. Thank you.
Namaskar. Namaskar. Thank you.